For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. President Donald Trump is in Florida visiting his golf clubs, where he'll meet with officials from Saudi Arabia and where at least 45 protests are planned across the state Saturday as part of the hands-off nationwide day of action against the president's agenda. More than 1,000 protests are planned across the country. Handsoff2025.com has a complete listing of actions. Top congressional Democrats are protesting the reported firing of General Tim Haw as director of the National Security Agency and his civilian deputy, Wendy Noble. They had been dismissed from their roles after President Donald Trump met with far-right conspiracy theorist Laura Loomer, who, among other things, has called the Parkland school shooting staged. Israeli airstrikes across Gaza have killed at least 112 Palestinians, according to medical sources. Multiple airstrikes hit school shelters in northern Gaza. One on a school in Gaza City killed 31 Palestinians, according to Gaza's Civil Defense Agency. 18 children were killed in one strike. Israel also launched strikes on a desalination plant. Israel's increased areas for forced displacement. Thursday, UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk called for an independent, prompt and thorough investigation into the killings of 15 medical personnel and humanitarian aid workers in Gaza. He also blasted the forced displacement as violations of international law. He spoke before the UN Security Council.
I'm appalled by the recent killings of 15 medical personnel and humanitarian aid workers, which raise further concerns over the commission of war crimes by the Israeli military. The Israeli military continues to strike camps for people who have been displaced numerous times, who have nowhere safe to go. The Israeli military also continues to force civilians to move. Half of Gaza is now under mandatory evacuation orders or has been declared a no-go zone.
In the U.S., the Senate defeated a measure by independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont to block $8 billion in U.S. arms shipments to Israel. The measure failed on a vote of 82 to 15. Sanders spoke on the Senate floor, standing before large images of bombed buildings and starving children.
We are deeply complicit in all of this death and suffering. Last year alone, the United States provided $18 billion in military aid to Israel and delivered more than 50,000 tons of military equipment.
29 Democrats also joined Republicans in rejecting the resolution. Meanwhile, the far-right Zionist organization Betar Worldwide says it's given the U.S. State Department a list of Americans whose naturalized citizenship should be revoked over their opposition to Israel's war in Gaza. The first person named, a Palestinian American, Nerdim Keswani, founder of Within Our Lifetime, an organization in support of Palestinian liberation. Betar Worldwide says it's also given a list of Jews to Israel, urging it ban their citizenship for life over their support of Palestine. Britain and France have accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of dragging his feet over Ukraine's ceasefire talks and ramped up pressure on Moscow by insisting he owes the U.S. an immediate answer. Russia's effectively rejected a U.S. proposal for a full and immediate 30-day halt in fighting. Here's U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
You can't end a war unless both sides agree. And that's what we're in the process of finding out. We will know soon enough, in a matter of weeks, not months, whether Russia is serious about peace or not. I hope they are. It would be good for the world if that war ended. But obviously we have to test that proposition.
Rubio spoke while meeting with NATO allies. He also defended Trump's new tariffs. Russia was omitted from increased tariffs. Stocks tumbled to their lowest rates in decades Thursday and continued fallout of the new sweeping trade war. Rubio suggested it was the storm before the calm. California Senator Alex Padilla has introduced a resolution aimed at transparency of the economic tariffs and whether they'll be used to offset the president's slash and burn of government agencies and services. Scott Baba reports.
If Republicans want to increase prices on hardworking Americans to give handouts to billionaires, then own it.
Padilla criticized President Donald Trump's global tariffs, warning they would increase costs for working families.
Trump's tariffs equate to the biggest tax hike on Americans in decades.
At the same time, Padilla accused Republican legislators of trying to use the money brought in from tariffs to obscure the scope of tax cuts being offered to wealthy Americans. The resolution needed unanimous consent but was blocked. I'm Scott Baba, Pacifica Radio, KPFA.
South Korea's constitutional court has unanimously removed Yoon Suk-yeol as president after he threw the nation into turmoil by declaring martial law. Today's verdict comes more than 3 months after the National Assembly impeached Yoon and he was suspended from office. Parts of the Midwest and South are facing the possibility of torrential rains after life-threatening flash floods. The storms today come as communities are still reeling from severe tornadoes that destroyed whole neighborhoods and killed at least 7 people in Tennessee, Indiana, and Missouri. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.